I'm Mel.
And I'm Mark.
And this is the Cerebral Sports Podcast. On the Cerebral Sports Podcast, we champion the mental development, wellness, and health of athletes, big, small, professional, and amateur.
Week to week, we'll have compelling conversations with athletes, coaches, parents, and mental health professionals to discuss their experiences and point of views as we work to bring awareness to the most vital muscle in an athlete's body, the mind.
All right, here we go. Another episode of the Cerebral Sports Podcast. I'm here with Jake Bofshever, man. Jake is a talented wide receiver hailing from Florida. He played his high school football at St. Thomas and Coral Springs, Florida. Coral Springs is the two schools that he had went to. He was a first-team all-county player in high school. He was recruited to come to LIU Post, where he was transferred over from a quarterback to a wide receiver. I had the pleasure of seeing his transformation. I believe he was a freshman or maybe even like a redshirt freshman when I was a part of the staff there. And one thing I remember about this young man was he was very cerebral, funny, very funny. You know, he always would be in the meeting rooms and understanding the game, and you know, he would get called on, but he never missed the answers to the questions that were asked. Had a tremendous career. You know, his senior year, he was a second-team all-conference player as a wide receiver. Really did a great job with leading the guys and having great success on the field. Had an opportunity to play in the CFL due to COVID when it came to mini camp and things like that. He was, you know, put to the side because there wasn't a lot of opportunity because the league was dealing with COVID like we all were in the world. But did have an opportunity to go into the CFL where he made the roster as a CFL, and he was a part of that team. After playing for the BC Lions in Canada in 2001, he also went undrafted into the XFL. We're excited to have him on the show today. Excited to share the story with you and pretty much get enlightened to the things that he endured as a player. Without any further ado, welcome to the show, Jake.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Shout out Jake, man. Welcome to the show, Mel. I think you said 2021, right?
Yeah, 2021.
Well, don't make my man sound old like that.
My apologies. 2021. And
that's Ian 2001. Ian Smart. That's what.
Hey, you know why? That's why. And Ian played for the BC Lions.
I know.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. He was I think he finished up like all special teams player of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
He was a big player for them. There has to be like a ton of highlights on YouTube. I used to watch him, so there has to be a ton of highlights of him on YouTube for sure.
And he also was on. I think they won a Grey Cup the year he was there as well.
Yes, they did. They did win the Grey Cup. Yeah, they did. I think he
was tremendous. All right, Jake, man. So like I said in the beginning when we were talking to try to get you on the show, this show is about the mental health of sports. We really want to hear about your journey, man. So I gave the listeners a little bit of your bio. Within that bio, is there anything that I may have missed that you want to touch on before we begin the show? Is there anything that you want to let the listeners know about yourself?
No, I think that's pretty good timeline of kind of my whole career and how like kind of played out. And we can touch on a little bit while we go through everything, get more into detail.
Very well. So let me ask you, man, what was one of the biggest challenges, you know, coming in from Florida? Florida football is very different than Long Island football. I know the competitive level from time to time can be a little bit of a drastic change, right? But coming from the warm weather in Florida where the palm trees are beautiful to the cold Long Island football, you know, throwing the ball and being in that position as a quarterback, what was one of the biggest challenges that you faced changing that position from quarterback to receiver?
I feel like the main challenge I would say is not really having control over everything. You know, so much when you're a quarterback, the ball is always in your hand. So you kind of can dictate so much like what's going on offensively and stuff like that. You know, as a receiver, obviously there's only one football. You know, there's 6 or 7 options on every single play. So just like kind of doing your job, even though it might not, you know, be having the ball in your hands, whether it's blocking or just like running the right route and kind of contributing in that way. I know early on, I really feel like I wouldn't be successful if I didn't catch the ball or something like that. I feel like, wow, like I really didn't do anything that play. And then I really truly got the understanding of the position. I'd realize like opening up, like, you know, running through a cover 2 seam and like opening up a a dag route or something like that. Like really, the big picture of playing football. It's like getting your teammates open and stuff like that. So I feel like that was my main challenge in the beginning, I would say. Like I was always looking to make a play probably in my redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore year. I was kind of trying to just get open and get a play, maybe interrupt other people's routes and stuff like that.
Yeah. So was that an adjustment that was easily made, or did you have some shortcomings along the way?
No, I think Coach Gill and yourself really was coached me up on that a lot. I definitely say, and I'm grateful for that too, going on through later in my career and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
That's phenomenal, man. I heard something yesterday on ESPN. They were talking about the TCU quarterback Max Dugan, and they were talking about how he had lost that job and had become a backup, and they just talked about his selflessness as a player and how unique it is. Where because being a quarterback is kind of like all about you. You're the man. You control everything. Did you have to fight those feelings? Did you find yourself like looking at the current quarterback at times saying like, yo, I should be playing. I should be throwing the rock. Like, how did you combat those feelings if, you had those feelings?
Yeah, well, to be honest, we had such a really good quarterback when I first came there. He was Jeff Kidd. I don't know if you're familiar with him. I know Coach Ramsey is. I think I must have been like 17, 18 at the time when he was a quarterback. So he was he was old. I think he was like 24, 25 and stuff like that. So there was a significant gap between us at the quarterback position. So I never really felt like I should be out there or should even be his backup at the time. I know we had a pretty good backup. I feel like there was a little significant gap, but I definitely felt like I was, my athletic ability, like I had enough to be able to contribute in somewhat ways to the offense and later on in my career. So yeah, I would definitely say I never felt like I should be playing over someone earlier on in my career, I'd say.
So at what point did you accept, I guess, well, I'm a receiver now? And how hard was that for you to accept that from, being a high school quarterback in Florida? Like, I know me personally, if I was a high school quarterback in Florida and I'm coming to New York, I'm coming to show these boys because Florida is such a big stage for football, a big state for football, and New York really isn't. Or at the scale that Florida is. So at what point did you accept all right, I'm a receiver now?
Yeah, so I would say towards the end of my freshman year, I'll be honest, I really didn't think my mind was kind of all over the place. I wasn't 100%. I loved football and I was really committed, but I was a red shirt. I was kind of, maybe, doing other stuff that wasn't so much football. So I kind of got, maybe, I don't know about lost, but I wasn't really maximizing my full potential at the quarterback position. And that's the honest answer. And then I remember having a long conversation, I think the end of my freshman year with Coach Gill. And we really got in depth, it was emotional. It was really heart to heart. I really wasn't feeling I was maximizing myself because I came from, obviously South Florida, I guess you could say the Mecca of football. And I was I was pretty good quarterback. I was all county, second team all state and stuff like that in Florida. So I was used to being the guy and stuff like that. And then I came up to New York and I kind of thought originally when I first got there, I kind of thought playing Division II football and stuff like that. I don't know what to expect, but I didn't realize how good people were when I got there. That's really honest. When I got up there, I was like, gosh, these guys are moving fast. They're big. I'm small. These windows are closing. Literally, I remember throwing my first 7-on-7. I don't even know what I was looking at. I just dropped back and it's right into a cover 3 linebacker going into the platform and just threw a pick. And I was like, dang, you know what I mean? So it was definitely a shock. And I remember having that, going back to it, I was having that conversation with Coach Gill. And I was like, I need a change or something. I don't know if it was so much the challenge, but I needed something to wake me up and get me going every single day and I thought receiver was the best opportunity between me and him where I could take on the new challenge and maybe maximize my athletic ability and trying to play. I know I had maybe unrealistic at the time because I was a little chubby freshman quarterback, maybe partied too much to say I wanted to play professional football as a receiver at the time. Probably most people would laugh or giggle. I probably, as they should, because it was kind of maybe ridiculous at the time, but I did have that in my head. I was like watching a lot of Edelman and stuff like that, and I was like, dang, I feel like I could do this. And I mean, I was just a little fat, chubby kid. It was, partying, not taking football too serious. So it was really, I feel like that was really the change. I was like, wow, I really got to start from scratch. Seeing guys on the team, John Banks, Shane Hubbard, Mikey Richardson, like these guys are light years ahead of me and stuff like that. So I knew I had a long way to go.
Yeah, Mel, I don't mean to jump you, Mel, but I just have to follow up with that. You talked about coming from South Florida, second team All State, things like that. Was there, obviously coming to LIU, playing D2, that was not your goal when you were in high school, right? And I know most kids, they want to be D1. You go on Twitter, you see everyone posting, I'm blessed to receive an offer from all the time. That's like all kids do now is repost, or student athletes do is repost their offers and things like that. Was there like a psychological hurdle that you had to get over by accepting, like, damn, you're going to New York to play D2? Like, was there something there? Because I think listeners, student athletes could really benefit from hearing, what that was like for you and how you came to accept that and embrace your reality where that was concerned.
Yeah, definitely. I had preferred walk-on opportunities from some of the Division I schools in Florida, not the top tier ones, but I mean, they're pretty good, like FAU, FIU, UCF. I had preferred walk-ons there. But like I said, going back to it, I kind of felt like I would go up to LIU and kind of just, be the guy right away. So I kind of downplayed the level of football in New York, Division II level for sure. So it was a big reality check when I got up there. So I think that was the main. I kind of thought like, if I go to FAU, FIU, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. If I go to LIU, I could freaking, throw 30 touchdown passes my first year. So yeah, definitely do not downplay the level of the, New York, that whole Northeast Conference of football. It was very legit football.
So yeah, definitely, man. And I'm happy that you came. For one, I want to ask you, and for the listeners, like, Long Island football, they don't really recruit the South. So how was that process? That how did you make your way up? Who came and spoke to you?
Yeah, that's a funny story. So I was getting interest from. I never even heard of LIU. I never heard of a lot of schools when I was my senior year. But I got interest, so I had like an official visit with Wagner College. Remember Coach Hossenberg, I think was his name, or Coach Haas or something like that. And I went up to Haas, yeah, Coach Haas. I remember he came down. He was recruiting the South Florida area. So I never even heard of Wagner at the time. So I went up to Wagner on a visit, and I also was getting recruited by a school called Marist in New York too as well. So I visited both those schools, and I really liked the New York area. So I was always had in my head, like, all right, if I don't play major football coming out of high school, like it would be cool to, be in an area, like New York or something like that and play, FCS, Division II football. So that was kind of appealing. So I went back to Coral Springs High. I remember talking with my principal and stuff like that. And we were talking about, like different opportunities and stuff like that. And then he actually brought up his principal Murphy, shout out him. He actually brought up the school LIU, and I was like, honestly, I was like, I never even heard of him. And then I looked it up, did the research, and I was like, wow, like they're winning. I think you guys just won the conference championship, like my senior year of high school. And you guys just beat AIC, if I remember correctly. It was like that team with Steve Lorino. So I was like, wow. So I reached out to, or it was my coach or one of the principals or something, reached out probably to Coach Gill or Coach Collins, whoever was the recruiting coordinator at the time. And they were like, hey, I got a kid from South Florida who wants to come up there and check it out. So we set up a visit and everything. And then I went up there, and I think Sean Banks was my host. So then, yeah, I got a.
That was a good host.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. So I got and like just the camaraderie with the guys and stuff like that. I kind of felt like some similar traits to myself. So I think that was really appealing. And then obviously they had a winning culture. So that was like really important to me too. So, and I had family in Long Island, both my parents from New York. So I felt like it was kind of just like, it was kind of like making sense.
Very full circle, man. And that's definitely something that I think Post is really good for. The aura and the energy, like, and the camaraderie, as you mentioned, that's like a thing there. And you can't find that everywhere. So that makes sense.
Yeah, man. So That's a good story. It's definitely seeing you make your transition up and having a great host like Sean. And for those who've been listening, Sean was a part of the podcast early on. We had a really good session with him as well.
Yeah.
So one thing I want you to talk to the people about, man, that transition from quarterback to receiver. And I know that when you were as a freshman, you were working and you said it was really good quarterbacks there and you weren't able to get on the field right away. Your transition from quarterback to receiver, learning a whole new position. You weren't making those transitional moves and becoming a starter right away there either, right? What were some of those? What was like the biggest mental hurdle that you had to overcome when you had that challenge in your hand? Now you're making this position change. You want to play. What was the hardest thing there, making that switch?
I think probably the hardest thing is wanting to have everything all at once. And like you start to realize that when you're older. So like I'd be first out there and there would be, I don't know, probably everything you could think of I was doing wrong, from my stance to false starting to, not getting to my proper depth. So like it was a little overwhelming at first. So, it's kind of like you start getting like not down on yourself, or maybe not so much down on yourself, but you realize like, wow, this is going to take a lot more than, just going to flip a switch overnight and I'm going to be, Julian Edelman or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I started to I remember saying, and this quote really stuck with me my whole career. I forgot where I heard it from, but it was like, see a little, see a lot, see nothing. So I really started I don't know if you get that. It's like you see, you really focus on one thing. I can see the whole picture of that one little thing. If I focus on everything at once, it's gonna be overwhelming. It's gonna be impossible. Right. So I kind of choked not every day, because I had a long way to go and I knew I wasn't playing my first year. So I kind of just focused on one thing at a time. I was like, all right, so this whole week I'm gonna make sure I get to my depth. I don't care. If I drop 100 passes, so what? I'm running every curl route at 12 yards. Coach Ramsey or Coach Gill says running 12 yards. If I say, on the dig route, I'll get to 16, I'm getting to 16. So I was just I made sure I remember the person was I'm getting my depth. And then it'd be the next thing is make sure I don't false start on my back leg. I had that problem early on. And I would just focus on that for the whole entire week, because I knew I wasn't playing that year. So I had all the time in the world to fix it that whole year. There was no excuse. So I really feel like that was the main thing. I was all right, just focus on one thing at a time. Don't be overwhelmed. Even if everyone's oh, catch the effing ball, Bofshever, what are you doing? Or what the hell was that release? You're getting thrown off. I was I don't give a crap. I ran my curl route at 12 yards today. So and not getting all teammates and stuff too. Oh, you made no plays today. I was whatever, man.
But really and truly, and that's what I remember about you the most. In the meeting room, when you get to the film room, and you know how coaches are, we get going. We're making fun, everyone's having jokes, and that same exact personality, that whole thought, that smile, that giggle. You got the boy and as a coach, I'd be in the back because we'd be doing it together, Coach Gill and I'd be in the back of the room just holding it every laugh, because every time we spoke, it was hilarious. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that you were having such good imagery and positive reinforcement, and even breaking down that the nuances of the game, right? And that definitely did. And you saw from the beginning of the year towards the end of the year how much better you got at running routes, how much better you were at catching the ball, running to your depth. All the little things you were just fine tuning. I was your coach, and I wasn't even aware of that, but I did see big picture how much better you got from the beginning to where you were at the end of the year. So that's
appreciate that.
That's a phenomenal strategy, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, damn, if I had that mentality, I could have probably had a different career. But I definitely was doing the latter half of the quote. I was seeing too much and trying to do too much, and did nothing ultimately. Well,
it's normal too. See a little, see a lot, see nothing.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember where I got that from, but I remember hearing that.
I was going to ask you.
It just stuck with me.
That's phenomenal, man. It really is. And I think that people can take that away and apply it in many areas of life where, they're being challenged or you need to grow and develop. Where did the mentality come from to say, all right, you know what, let me compartmentalize, this journey and this adjustment to becoming a receiver now? Where did that ideal come from?
Yeah. So, I mean, I mean, I was not, what was the word Coach Gill always says? I wasn't delusional. You know, I mean, I was jokester or whatever, but I really wasn't I wasn't a delusional player. So I was aware that, you know, me and their starting receivers, Mikey Richardson, you know, Shane Hubbard's, Kyle Ward's, like, I mean, there was no one saying Jake Bofshever should be playing in front of them. You know, I wasn't, even I wasn't. So I realized, like, I came to acceptance, like, all right, like, let me use this whole year. I scratched my whole redshirt freshman year. I was like, it wasn't a waste. It was a lot of learning experience. So I was like, forget that. I'm not freaking gonna like be like, all right, I gotta be a receiver on the team this year. I was like, let me use this whole entire year to like get some respect to my coaches, where maybe the next year I have a like legit chance, you know, either contribute on special teams or be a number 2 receiver. Like, let me put myself in that position. So I feel like not being a delusional player and stuff at the time, and not having so much of a, you know, an ego or like pouting about it, and I just had a good approach to it. So I really took that to my advantage my next year, and even got like, you know, leaving like a good impression with Coach Ramsey. And I knew like that would be important for my career, like not being a kid that like, oh, you know, Bofshever's on the sidelines freaking pouting, thinking he should be out there and crap like that. I was like, I don't want that kind of people thinking about me on the team. I wanted everyone to like me and, you know, respect me, that I was going to work and, you know, earn my stripes. And I wasn't like, you know, thinking I should be somewhere that I wasn't.
That's a phenomenal mindset. Your mindset is second to none. It was second to none. I don't know if you ever thought about coaching, but there's a lot of kids out there that could benefit from that perspective and that point of view in their playing careers, high school, college. Because, I mean, you know, you see the transfer portal, that shit is packed. Because everyone believes they should play, they should believe they should start, and this and that. And I love players having options and being able to move around, but people could benefit a lot from that mindset that you had. And so what ended up happening for you year 2? Let's kind of go down the path a little bit. So, you know, you had your mindset, you did your work right for redshirt freshman year, you know, you developed yourself how you could. What happened in the next year?
Yeah, so my redshirt freshman year, I really didn't ever play. I really wasn't a good player at all. I really didn't deserve to play at all, but I definitely like got a lot better. I think I came in probably, you know, I can count on one hand how many plays I got my redshirt freshman year, but I played. So that was one of my goals. I did get on the field. Like, you know, it's hard to get on the field. So, you know, coaches did trust me. Even at the end of the game, being up 40 points, like, they still put me out there. So that was pretty cool. And then going into the next year, I really used the whole off season. You know, I have a lot of resources down here in like South Florida, you know, with like some of the top premier receiver coaches and stuff like that. And even like players I grew relationships with, because I was, you know, being a quarterback, I was friends with all the receivers. So I got a chance to work with them. They all really like were patient with me and like worked with me all the time. Probably my best friend in the world, Ja'Cour Pearson, played for Ole Miss last year. He was my receiver in high school. He's really a player. He's drafted into the XFL. He was with the Giants and stuff. He really took the time to work with me like every single day with like releases, how to move, just like body language, like stuff like that. So I think that's why I made a huge gap. I remember showing up to my redshirt sophomore year. Coach Ramsey, I don't know if you were still coaching there at the time, but it was going into my redshirt sophomore year. I feel like I was a completely new player. Wow. New person, new like level of confidence. You know, I did so many one-on-ones down home in Florida versus like, you know, some top players, and I wasn't really scared. I like lost the whole mindset of like being scared. Like I would get pressed and crap like that, and like that come in Florida, and I'd be like, I don't give a crap. And eventually, like I got really good at doing releases and stuff like that. And I remember showing up to my redshirt sophomore year camp, and everyone could really take notice, and they're like, oh wow, like Bosh, like I really kind of made a name for myself that I might be something, you know, down the road. If it's not this year, but I'm definitely took a huge leap, I would say.
That's dope, man. You showed it. That's Mel. That's always something that I always used to worry about, and that's one of the reasons why I work so hard in the off season. You never want to be the guy that shows up, you know, and gets worked by somebody that you don't think you can get worked by because they grew and you didn't. So I'm sure dudes probably came in and like, oh, it's Boff, you know, and they lined up and it was like, oh shit, like what the hell happened?
Yeah, no, that's probably really, that's honestly like how it was. And I kind of like, you know, as a coach, Coach Rams, Mar, that like, even if guys don't play, you kind of have guys you could see like, all right, he might be something, you know, maybe not this year, but year 2. And then other guys that are kind of just like, oh, same kid I was last year, kind of just, you know, he's going to get overpassed by the incoming kid. So I didn't want to be that. So I think my redshirt sophomore year, I kind of was like, coach was like, all right, maybe we got someone with Bofshever. If it's not right now, it's because we were really good then too. Maybe start right now, maybe down the road.
I remember coming to the game. I forget who you guys played, and I think you scored. And I was like, oh. and then you wind back up. I think you had another catch. I was like, God, Lee. I'm like, all right, yeah, you definitely got something, man. But and then I remember having a conversation with the coaches on staff. I'm like, yeah, Boff is definitely doing well. And for those that are listening, Jake Boff is the same person. So he definitely, and I'm speaking to you, you definitely did make some great strides. But you talk about your confidence, and a lot of athletes don't understand that confidence is something that just doesn't happen, right? And it's something that just doesn't go away, right? If you talk about performance confidence and an outcome confidence, and that's I was talking to you guys about when I was there. The outcome confidence is the stuff that can be easily shaken, right? If you don't catch the pass or whatever, you don't score, or you have a bad game, quote unquote. Those are the things that, as athletes, I don't think anyone should ever hang their hat on. But the performance confidence, which you kind of spoke about, is putting in that work, confidence in your own skill set, confidence in the work that you put in, and the belief to be able to go out there, no matter what the outcome was, you knew that you were that same solid player. So it was exciting to see that one game, but it was also really interesting to just hear from you and telling the listeners exactly the background of how you became the player that you were, right? And speaking to that point, then, so after your sophomore, we're going to go your junior, say your senior year, when you became that second team all conference player. What was the thought process there after college? Like, what were you thinking about? Did you feel like that initial goal of making it to the professional level, being that Edelman receiver, did you think that was now something that was obtainable?
Yeah, you know what, I definitely did. Because I would come back home in Florida. This is going into like my end of my redshirt junior year. I had I really kind of peaked at the end of the season. Like I ended up being like a starter. I had like a bunch of catches and touchdowns towards the end of my junior year, and like on a really good team with everyone. So I had definitely a lot of confidence, and I went back home to Florida, and I really I really lit it up like with camps and around people, and my confidence just grew and grew. And like being around players that were already playing professional or about to be draft prospects, I was like, wow. Even if I wasn't as good, I was like, wow, like I really could do this and stuff like that. And then I started to, right before my senior season, I started to get some like emails and stuff from some all-star teams and like recognition. And I think I had an agent or two like reach out to me showing like interest, and I was like, I was like, all right, I think I'm good, but like I didn't really do anything too crazy. I know I had a really good in the last 4 games with like some touchdowns and stuff like that. But yeah, so then those little conferences, I think I got invited to like, it's called like a FCS All-Star game and stuff like that. It's not like a premier All-Star game, but even stuff like that like boosted my confidence. Maybe it's not the big of the world. Like when I look back at it, it might not be the biggest thing in the world, but at the time I was like, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So it gave me so much confidence. Like, wow, like these people, we just went up to FCS and they think I'm possibly getting on the All-Star team. It's like, all right, yeah, man, I'm as good as I think I am. Like maybe I'm not tripping. So I feel like that really boosted my confidence.
Got it. And then how did that go? So now COVID hit, right? That's when COVID hit. Did COVID hit that year?
Yeah. So it hit my senior year. So I did. This is crazy. So I did my senior year. So I got invited to the FCS All-Star game. And then I went down to the FCS All-Star game in Daytona, Florida. And I ended up like just destroying one-on-ones and was the MVP of the whole entire week as a receiver. So I got invited to the Tropical Bowl game, which is the FBS game. So now it's like all like the 1A kids, like, Bama, Auburn, like all those players and stuff were on my team. So then I remember Alex Hornibrook was the quarterback from Wisconsin. So like I was around like the guys that were coming out my year, and I was like, wow. So I did that, and then I was the leading receiver of that too. So I had I feel like I had all the momentum. Like I was like, wow. Like I started to really get some buzz right around that time, because I went back to back. Like I feel like I had, for even me to have a chance, I had to hit on I couldn't miss. So I was the leading receiver on the FCS thing. And then I went to the Tropical Bowl, and I wasn't like overwhelmed. I wasn't delusional, but I knew I had to perform at every single level, like high. And then at the FBS, I was the leading receiver through the game, and I was one of the top receivers during the whole week of practice too. And I really started to be like, who the heck is this kid? And stuff like that. So that's when I feel like I really got some momentum going and really got some buzz. And I know I had, then I started having some teams reach out to me and stuff like that. It's kind of just asked me about pro day, where I was training at. And not saying I never thought I was going to be drafted, but like, rookie mini camp, undrafted free agent was definitely something like in the conversations for sure with my agent and stuff like that. Because I think the whole quarterback to receiver thing kind of, played in my favor. Teams were like, what do we got something, maybe thinking like we got something here and stuff like that. So that's when I really started getting the buzz and thinking like, wow, I'm going to do this.
I'm loving this story, man. I kind of wanted to keep going. You could definitely keep going with the journey, and I hear your point about the QB to wide receiver, because I mean, the first thought is that, all right, this is a smart player. He's a smart kid. He's cerebral. You can also, serve as like the backup emergency quarterback, or you can, double pass, whatever. If it just makes you very versatile, and teams like that, like the element of surprise. So what happened from there?
So then I had my pro day. I trained down in South Florida, and I didn't really have, I'm not going to make excuses, it happened. I didn't have the best pro day, definitely as possible. And, but I still was having interest. I still got like invited to the Giants and the Jets local days and the Dolphins local days. And definitely at that point, they weren't really talking so much about signing me, but I know the Giants brought up about rookie mini camp to me. And I was like hell yeah. Like, so let me get out there and get an opportunity. And this is even like a couple. So it was kind of like playing out. Like, this was like 2 weeks before the draft. So it was kind of like, that's not always the case. Usually they happen pretty quick. Kids don't get undrafted, get rookie mini camp, but kind of, we were taking the approach, let's hop on a rookie mini camp and try to. So we were pushing that, and the Giants were like, yeah, definitely Bofshever. I'm one of the kids that will probably get invited to rookie mini camp. And then COVID hit, like really got crazy, like right before the draft. And then everything there was no rookie mini camp my whole year. So like that all canceled. So for a kid in my shoes that, didn't test like a freak or anything like that, coming out of a small school, it really, even the odds were so small, it kind of, even cut that in half, whatever. If it was 1%, now you're talking 0.5%. So that was definitely pretty, a challenge and stuff like that. And then to keep going, I got invited to the spring league, and there was a spring league going on all the time, but Fox Sports was running the whole thing. And there was like some really legit players in it, like kids like, rookie mini camp kids, or kids that, would have went undrafted, but, cause they cut down from, 90-man rosters to 80-man rosters. There's a lot of kids that got left off the bubble. So there's a lot of good players going to play in the spring league. So there was a spring league with a team set up with already good players in it. And then there was a whole like draft pool of players too, where kids would go work out. So I was a draft pool player. I wasn't even a kid put on a team. So I went to the draft pool, and I ended up doing really good. And Coach Chuck Brushingham, who was like the defensive coordinator of that Raiders team that lost to the Bucs in the Super Bowl in 2001. Mm-hmm. So he's a really respected coach. Like, he caught interest in me, and he grabbed me and brought me on his team for the Jousters at the time. So 2020, like towards the end of 2020. So I was on the Jousters with him, Coach Breshingham. There was really, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name, really famous receiver coach who coached the receivers for the Cowboys with Michael Irvin. He was a receiver coach, and then, I'm not going to say somehow, because it was a lot of hard work, I ended up being the leading receiver on my spring league team for the 4 games there.
Man, you don't mess around.
Yeah, and there were some dudes on that team too, like kids like 2 years in the league. Wasn't a joke. Like, so grown men and stuff like that. So I was like, I really had my confidence going, and then after that, like, I got right away. I had like 3 CFL teams hit me up and start talking to me, and then that was like in March. January, February, March. And then they were all talking to me, and then it just died, like nothing. So now I'm back home.
Is this 2021?
This is early. Yeah, this is early 2021. I hope I'm not skipping around too much. I'm covering everything.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
So this is like early 2021. I'm training every day down in South Florida, like at the top, like one of the top training facilities down in South Florida. And I'm delivering food for delivery dudes at the time, just trying to, literally every dollar I'd get would go to my training. And looking back at it, like I had no one hitting up my phone. Like it just was completely dead. Like people would ask me, like, hey, what's going on? I'd be like, yeah, I'm training, I'm getting some interest in my head. I'm like, gosh, like I really don't even know if I'm really getting interest at this point. Like I don't really know what's going on. So this is like March, and CFL camp's about to start. Now we're almost in July. So they pushed CFL back that year because of COVID, because they canceled their 2020 season. So everything got pushed back. So now we're like, I want to say it was like July 1st, and camp started July 3rd in Canada. And I'm literally on the road delivering food. I remember that. I had like a pizza box or something on me. And the BC Lions team, the GM texts me saying, do you have a passport? So I remember like, oh crap, I pulled over on the road. I was like, yeah. He just texted me saying, do you have a passport? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, and then he doesn't respond to me. So I call my agent. I'm like, hey, Ryan Rigman just texted me, asked me if I have a passport. And he's like, all right. So then he calls me the next day. I think camp starting all right. So it must have been June like 27th, and camp was starting July 3rd. So it wasn't July 1st. It was like a couple days before that. So then he calls me and he's like, hey, I'm gonna be honest with you. There's 2 kids, receivers that don't have their passports. If they have their passports, they're coming. If they don't, we'll sign you. I'll be pretty straightforward with you. You can't release that to anybody. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't want to get your hopes up, but that's just the case. Are you ready? Would you accept the offer and be ready to go in camp in 4 days if that happens? I was like, yeah. So like, it was weird because I don't know if I was supposed to be, I didn't want to get my hopes up or excited because I'm relying on kids not getting their passport. I'm like, this is, you know what I mean? And sure enough, it's July 2nd and he calls me. I remember him calling me and he's like, hey, do you want to be a Lion? Like BC Lion. I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right, I'm going to have someone call you and we're going to book your flight to Canada. And you got ready for camp in 2 days. So that was really like a surreal moment too. I was like, wow, like, I'm get paid to play professional football and get opportunity to train in camp. And yeah, I don't know if you want me to jump into that or you got any questions so far.
I'm sure Mel wants to jump in and say something, but I just got to tell you, like, these things never get old. And I feel like so many athletes have so many great stories. This is a great story. Like, we could turn this into a short film or documentary or something like that. This is really good. And something I want people to pay attention. I want to really underscore is the mindset that you have to have, that every time you have to show up for a test, like a kind of like a one-time only test, like, okay, this is a moment. We need a home run. You hit a home run every single time. So it just says a lot about your mindset and like your mental toughness and your ability to focus and just like lock in. And it probably is that mindset that you had redshirt freshman year where it's like, yo, focus on a little. You have the right mindset to step up to those big challenges and those big pressure moments. And, that comes through practice and just like, working on yourself mentally. So I just kind of want to underscore that. I'm not sure Mel want to hop in and say something.
I just say to say that people listening, it's not like it was luck. This guy was ready. He stayed ready so he didn't have to get ready. So that's another thing that definitely needs to be, highlighted. Not only was he ready mentally, but he was also ready physically, right? Had his passport ready to go. He went up to the BC Lions and he did his darn thing. He played well. So in college, he was always ready. He had his goals, he had his mindset, and he executed every time he had an opportunity. He had some shortcomings, as far as with the pro day, but he didn't let that rock him. He went back to work and continued to do what he needed to do to get to where he was, man. So briefly, just give us a little bit. I know Marlon looks like Marlon cut out real quick. Give us a little bit of what transpired up there in Canada. How did that go? How was that season?
Yeah, so probably as crazy as everything to get to Canada. When I first got to Canada, it was probably the challenge there was way bigger. Remember, I got there my first day. Everyone was already been going over the playbook for the last 2 months. So everyone's going playbook, Zoom meetings, everyone knew each other, like familiar with each other. I get there and I kid you not, I get the depth chart. I'm number 19 receiver, 19. I didn't even know there was 19 receivers in camp. So I'm the 19th receiver in camp on every single position from X to Y. I was either number 5 or number 6. There was no one under me, put it that way. I was literally the bottom of every single X, Y, Z. I think there was an R in Canada. Like I was the last person every single position. Plus everyone was studying the playbook. So I was like, I remember like I wasn't, but I wrote that on my wall, the see a little, see a lot. I remember writing that in my little dorm room in Canada. And I would look at that every single day. To not get like overwhelmed with everything, because I was like, obviously I'm in my head, I'm like, gosh, how the hell am I going to make this team? You know, there's cuts in 6 days. You know, I don't really, I never played in CFL or running start, new trends, whole new formation, new game. But I didn't try not to get overwhelmed. I just tried to control the stuff I can control. And I remember thinking like the one thing that I know I could, use to my advantage is my ability to learn. So I was like, all right, like there's one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go out there and like, when the play's about to snap, just like look around like I'm not knowing what the hell I'm doing. Because I know like that's really a shortcut to getting off the team. Because I remember the coach right away, like first meeting, he's like, listen, professional football, like I'll be honest with you, you don't get coached, you get cut. So I was like, all right, so I'm not gonna go out. I was like, even like in college, I'm like, I'm not going out there. The worst thing you could do is go out there and just like look around and the play gets snapped and like you're just like jogging off there like through the line. It's like, no, you're not. Everyone knows you don't know what you're doing. So I was like, that's not gonna happen. So I just remember studying the playbooks, or like it was a huge playbook, but I was like, I knew like the first week or first day, the next day of plays. So I was like, I'm gonna know every single freaking play, every single position. So if I go out there, I'm not gonna be that guy, because I knew other kids maybe had, I don't know, there's egos or whatever. They didn't really study or like didn't know what they were doing. So I really separated myself. Like the first couple of days, I knew every single play. And then sure enough, I didn't have any catches. I had no balls thrown at me. I'm talking about limited reps, like 2 or 3 a day. These guys got a game in a month, you know what I mean? They're getting their guys ready. So I had limited reps. So there was days I didn't catch any passes. I remember calling home, like back to my dorm, like calling my agent, my dad, like, I don't know how the heck I'm going to make this team. I haven't even caught a ball or anything. But we had a scrimmage on that Saturday and cuts for that Saturday. So I went to the scrimmage and I ended up like having like a touchdown and a couple big catches in the scrimmage. I think I had a really good scrimmage. I wasn't the leading receiver, but I definitely had a really good scrimmage. And then I made the first cuts. So that was really cool for me, because obviously I was probably the first one out the door on everyone's mind. I was the 19th receiver. I think we cut down to like 14 after first cuts. So that was pretty cool. And then the next week, it really started to pick up because the one started to rest. So I really got more reps and out there. And then obviously there were some really good players on my team too, like all FBS scholarship, NFL kids. So then that next week of practice, I had a really good week of practice, but nothing like too crazy. It was still like we're cutting down to 8 receivers in 4 days. And then the scrimmage came again Saturday for the next cuts. And then this time I was the leading receiver and I had like catch of the day, like that. I don't know, on my Instagram, I had like the touchdown of the day in the scrimmage game in the back of the end zone. I think I must have had like 9 catches, like a touchdown. So like, they pretty much have no choice. So they liked it or not. They're like, how the heck are we going to cut this kid now? Like I got like, everyone, I had like the coach announce me at the end of the game in front of like all the fans and stuff. So, and then like I went back to my room and it's so like nerve wracking thinking back on it. Like it's literally like the Hard Knocks, like everyone just banging on the doors, like bring your playbook. And I'm just like, just sitting there in my kitchen and like you skipped over my door. And then I get a phone call from the guy who signed me. And he's like, hey, come down to room 217. And he's like, don't worry, it's good news. And I was like, I went down there to the room and it was like him, the GM, the head coach. And they're like, hey, like, it's kind of cool thinking back on it. Like, hey, like, we'll be straightforward with you. There's not one person in this room or facility thought we were going to be here today, but you made the team. They're like, just keep that edge going. And like, we really think, you could really be something. They're like, it was really like a cool moment at the time, thinking back on it, because I really couldn't afford to miss on any step of the way, from the FCS bowl game to anything. If one slip up, like I was done. So like looking back at it, was like, I kind of did go like 6 for 6 or something like that with like working out my way. So that was kind of like probably the coolest moment. Like looking back at it, maybe it definitely transpired as big as I thought it would be. I didn't play in the NFL or anything like that, but looking back to like where I got and kind of the trial and tribulations, it's kind of cool looking back at like talking to you guys and hearing the whole journey, like kind of reliving it again.
Yeah, man, it's a phenomenal journey. It's something that will influence and speak to the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? Like you being able to get through all of those roadblocks, get over all of those hurdles, is going to make you be super successful in anything that you do in life moving forward, because you just kind of, you have that metal, like you're that guy, you're him, and you know how to show up. So, I mean, it's a great, great journey. I'm serious. I would watch it. I mean, I'm not sure how much clips you got to turn this into a documentary of some sort, but it is a story that you should definitely like package up and make sure you can tell. And we have this podcast that you can share, but your kids, when you have kids, if you ever do, or people in your family that don't know the story, they need to know, because it's remarkable.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
My question right now, man, with all of that being done and said, what are you currently doing, man? Like what is Jake doing with football right now, and where are you with things?
Yeah, so right now I'm currently living in Las Vegas. So how I got to this point is I was in the USFL draft after the CFL season. I didn't get drafted, and then I trained at for the last 8 months being a free agent for the XFL. I was a pretty early invite on the XFL list. So I kind of figured I'd have a chance there. But like I had at that time, I'm getting older. I was like 24 in the CFL. I'm 26 now. So I kind of had in my head, like, I'm going to give everything I got this whole entire year. And then if it doesn't, if the cards don't go exactly how I want them to go, like I'm going to maybe start to make that transition and then use like all the lessons and stuff I learned playing football and stuff like that into my next career and stuff like that, or opportunity. So I had that peace of mind. I didn't want to. I wanted to use everything I had while I still have the fire, which I never think I'll go away to, because we're all more than football players at the end of the day. You know what I mean? I'm not just I'm Jake Bofshever the person. Like I'll have a life way longer than I will have my football career. God willing. So I said I'm going to use everything I got for 9 months to train for the XFL, and I made some sacrifices. I think nothing or anything wrong with it at all. It's a good career, but I waited tables and stuff like that for the last 8 months to train for the XFL, just make sure I was able to do my training and stuff like that. And I feel like I made pretty good sacrifice to give myself the best chance to, play in the XFL. Then I currently went undrafted. So I kind of said, I'm going to give it I thought I was going to get drafted, but I was going to give it a few more weeks after the draft, see what people are saying, and then start to make that transition. My uncle is really successful. He has a bunch of restaurants here in Las Vegas, and he just recently opened up a tequila, his own tequila company here in Las Vegas. So I know me and him were talking back and forth throughout the whole process. And I was really, excited. If it doesn't work out football, I'm gonna use all that I got left in my tank, which is a lot still to into my next thing, into my next career and stuff like that. So once that kind of, I talked to some coaches and stuff like that, it kind of, I was gonna go in a different direction, which I get it. It's I'm not gonna sit here and pout about that, because there's life's gonna keep rolling no matter what, or that saying that's gonna roll you over if you let it. So I was what, I'm just gonna jump into the next thing. I'm not going to sit in my room and, pout and stuff like that. I accomplished a lot, and I'm going to use all that stuff I got in me and all the lessons I learned in life into this opportunity I have over here. So that's kind of currently where I'm at.
Solid, man.
I think no matter what it is that you do, Jake, man, and as far as your football career goes, if they do call you, you decide that you want to go back in and get it done, I have the utmost confidence that you'll perform at the best level that you're possible. But even if you don't, man, and you do decide to take on this new journey, which is great, your accomplishments and what you accomplished, as an underdog athlete coming from, Division II school, I don't think there's anyone that's. I don't think there's a story. There's probably stories quite like it, but I don't think I know anyone that had this same kind of a journey.
It's a good one.
I want to say thank you for jumping on the platform with us and sharing the story, man. And we push out our podcast every Sunday. Every time we have a show, man. I'm overly excited to get this one out to the people.
Oh yeah,
My plan was to kind of just touch base and try to talk more like current event stuff too, but I don't even want to. I don't want to spoil the show. I really think that what you just gave the world, man, is all of that and some, man. And it's from a coaching standpoint, man. Like Coach Marlon said, man, if you decide that you want to coach at any level, I think you teaching the young athletes anything of what you dealt with and how you kind of went about your business will definitely transform lives. Transform lives. In your new journey, you're gonna do well. You're gonna do tremendous.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. And also, it helps me too, like going out there and because I'm not sitting here like running through everything every single day. So like trying to do the whole journey and stuff like that, kind of like it gave me a good opportunity today to be like kind of grateful and stuff for where I'm at today, and like that was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, a little self-reflection. Yeah, we don't always step back and look at what we have done and how far we have come. And to Mel's point, a lot of what influences or informs being a good coach is your experience. That's huge. Your experience is so top tier and so nuanced and unique that you can provide something that other people can't. So if you did decide to coach, and we talk about coaching, like it doesn't necessarily have to be football. It could be in business. It could be whatever, any kind of leadership. You have what it takes, obviously, to do that. So whether it be on a team or whether it be running your uncle's business or taking over or becoming a partner, whatever have you, you're going to be successful, man, because you clearly have the correct mindset, cerebrality, and thought process, man. It's dope, man. This is a great story. I loved it. I'm a fan now, so you got a +1 now, dude. I'm a fan of the story now.
Appreciate that.
Shout out your social media and where people can like keep up with you and follow what you're up to next.
Yeah, I'm at Jake _Bofshever, I think on Twitter and Instagram. So you can come check me out.
And we like to go to Vegas a lot, man. And
yes, my favorite place.
Get out there.
Have you been?
Oh, always.
I've been like 5 times, man.
Oh, have you heard of? I don't know if you heard. Have you heard of Nacho Daddy restaurant?
Yeah,
that's my uncle's restaurant. He's the owner of that.
Okay.
So
definitely check it out.
Yeah, you guys got to come through and check it out for sure. Yeah, definitely. And we got the Telson tequila.
Okay. And tequila that is my liquor of choice. So
hey, we're up and coming vodcast, man. If you guys want some sponsorships, we could shout you guys out on the shows to come.
Yeah, maybe we work something out, Coach. Definitely.
Let's get to the business. But Jake, man, from the bottom of my heart, man, I want to say thank you for taking your time out today. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of your coaching career. And I'm really excited and happy and proud of everything that you've accomplished. So thank you.
Thank you guys so much. And Coach Ramsey, thank you too. Even if you didn't know it, everyone, you had an influence on my career. Definitely, you took your time and stuff to coach me. And I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.